What is going on, PartTimerZack here. In today's video, I wanted to talk about Blue Archive and just go over my first impressions from the overall game that I've been kind of experiencing for the first couple of hours that I've been able to play. Now, I do plan on doing a little bit more in depth of a review as we kind of progress through the different game modes and talk about more of the characters and stuff like that in future videos. So definitely pay attention to the channel for those. But let's go ahead and jump into the first and foremost thing, and that is going to be gameplay and overall feel. I do like the feel of the game. I think it's kind of fun. Now, I do know a lot of people are going to be kind of on the fence when it comes to auto kind of combat. They don't really like that. And I know a lot of people like to be a little bit more engaged, but I think that this game has a place essentially to be able to be a really good game, maybe even a side game for some people that like to do other things while they're playing games like this. For example, if you're doing homework or you're watching a PTZ video, you're able to kind of play this game in the background and kind of keep an eye on it as it kind of progresses through some of the different missions and just be able to kind of, experience it from kind of a shorthand essentially and kind of play it as a side game and not take too much of your time of your day essentially to jump onto it. You're just kind of going through it and letting it kind of grind itself out. I think it's a lot of fun for people who are just kind of busy or maybe have a busier schedule that don't have a lot of time for games that are kind of more hands-on essentially. Talking about some of the different art style, I know a lot of people don't really like the chibi stuff when it comes to some of the different games that they play. I definitely think it has a time and a place. I don't personally really like it as much either, but I do think when it comes to auto combat, I don't really kind of mind it essentially if it's done really well. And I think the models in this game are actually done pretty well in comparison to some of the other chibi models that I've been able to see from different auto kind of games. And I really feel like the main focus on an auto game is to kind of just give it an eye and kind of watch as it progresses and do some different things with your skills. And it's not too much about like the way that it kind of looks when it comes to the actual character models. I know a lot of people would rather just them find a way to do the 3D models of the 2D models that they actually have, because the art of those actually give a lot of different personality. And I think that they do a really, really good job when it comes to the kind of the 2D art. And I would have loved to see kind of a translation of that into like a 3D model and not necessarily use the chibi model. But I honestly think that the chibi models look really, really good, especially for this game overall. Now, one thing I did want to mention was the launch of the game. I really felt that it was really smooth. And the only reason I wanted to bring it up is because I feel like we've had a lot of games where it's just been back-to-back bad launches, man. It's just been kind of a rough patch for a lot of different games to be able to get off the ground right from the beginning. It just feels like a lot of people have had, bind account errors or just being able to play the game in general. I know a lot of different issues I've been having with a lot of different games. And so far, I've only had one or two kind of issues with this game. And one being whenever I was downloading the big bulk of data to kind of jump into the game, I had a couple crashes. But since I've been able to download it, I've actually had no crashes, even on my emulator, which is usually something that I'm kind of on the fence about when it comes to the first day. Launch day is kind of rough when it comes to emulators because not all games work really well right off the gate from launch, but this game has actually been doing pretty well after I got all the data kind of downloaded. It was a little bit of a tedious task, but once I was able to get it done, it was running pretty good from there. Now, the next thing is going to be kind of a weird bug that happens whenever you're going through the different environments on the missions, and that is going to be the fact that some of the different things like cars, for example, in the overall environment will all of a sudden just shine a really bright color. Sometimes it's red, sometimes it's yellow, and it just gets to a point where you can't actually see what's going on because you actually have your skills down at the bottom, and it's so bright that it actually takes over that and you can't really see. Luckily, you have auto, so you're able to kind of just let them play. And when it does happen, I just click on auto real quick and just kind of let it run. But it doesn't happen very often, and it seems to be like every fourth or every fifth kind of mission. So it's not really a big thing to me. And I definitely think that they're going to be able to kind of fix that in the near future, obviously. And it would be something that, I can kind of get over in comparison to not being able to play for 24 hours or not being able to bind a good account. Now, talking about accounts, I was really happy to see that they did something different for rerolling, and I was really happy to see that they actually integrated an account reset essentially that you can go into and make rerolling so much easier, because originally whenever I jumped into it, I was doing the whole clear your data stuff and it wasn't actually working for me, especially on BlueStacks and on my phone. I was actually just logging back into the account and I had to re-download all of the data and still logged back into that guest account anyway. I wasn't able to kind of clear the data and just go back into a new account, which was going to make rerolling very, very hard, until I realized that they actually have an account reset, which is really, really nice because you're able to keep all the data and all they have to do is just go back to the title screen, jump in, go through the tutorial again, which is kind of a headache, but it's not really that long. And then you can jump into it and you get all your pre-registration rewards and you get all the different polls and stuff like that. So it was really nice to be able to have kind of a streamlined way of being able to reroll. And I really like that games are moving towards a way that people are able to kind of reroll a lot better, especially because we actually had issues with JP on the Blue Archive having a lot of issues when it came to rerolling, and the game actually trying to prevent people from doing it with IP bans and all that kind of stuff. So I'm happy to see that the global version and Nexon is actually stepping up a little bit here and being able to allow people to, essentially reroll for the characters that they want. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is the overall UI. I think that the UI is laid out really well. I think that everything has a place, and I really feel like it's laid out in a way that you don't have to go digging for a lot of different things. Obviously, there is a little bit of digging when it comes to some of the different aspects of the overall game, like settings and account and stuff like that, but that's kind of be expected because those are usually kind of tucked away. But overall, I think the menu looks really good, especially when you're able to kind of go into the settings and crank it up to very high in 60 FPS. I was so happy to be able to see that there was a 60 FPS option, especially when I'm playing on my emulator. It looks so much better and it actually runs a lot better. So whenever I was jumping into the game, I was having a little bit of lagging issues. Some of the menus weren't loading correctly and it would just kind of have this weird stuttering effect. Once I actually changed it to very high and 60 FPS, I actually had that completely gone. I was able to kind of go through the menus rather quickly, and so I was happy to be able to see that and have that kind of a nice addition, especially 60 FPS. It definitely makes it look really good. But if you are having issues with your phone, definitely pay attention to like kind of what the model is essentially, and kind of mess with the settings, kind of go into low or 30 FPS, whatever your phone can essentially handle. Just kind of tweak it a little bit to give you an ideal setting essentially to be able to play the game. So real quickly, I wanted to talk about tier lists. I do plan on doing my own tier list as I get a little bit more familiar with some of the different units, but I was able to find one that is actually English translated and it has all the different information, all the different things that you can think about, all the different characters, filters, and all that stuff. If you're looking for a particular character, you're looking for a particular unit or subunit or anything of that kind of stuff, it has filters and all that kind of stuff. I really think that it was really well done, but I would take it with a grain of salt because it does have some JP units on it that aren't out on the game yet. So that could shift kind of the balance essentially for the overall tier list. And I would really use it as kind of like an information dump essentially to go in there and have all the characters in one spot and just be able to click on it, because you are able to highlight them and kind of see what their overall stats are and kind of see where they fit on your team. And then if you get a little bit more interested, you can obviously click on it and see all their skills and stuff like that. So I'd really kind of use it as just like a kind of collection of data to be able to kind of go through there, just be able to pick out some different characters or see some different characters that you like or maybe have some more questions about. Now obviously you can go into the game and do that. I just feel like having a little bit of a database is a little bit easier for my opinion, and be able to compare some different units rather quickly. But related to the tier list, there was actually a lot of 2-star units and even some 1-star units that were actually quite high on the tier list, and I was happy to see that because a lot of games, it really does feel like they kind of force you to go to the highest ranking essentially, which is a 3-star unit, and it makes you kind of want to get those and pull for them on the gacha. The gacha is rather competitive on this game. Whenever I was able to calculate it, it looks like it's like a 2.5%. Now, if my math is off a little bit, definitely let me know in the comments. But for some reason, whenever I go into rate info, it just gives you like an outline of essentially all the different characters and the percentages of the 3-star. It doesn't actually give you like a total. Normally it would say like, you know, 3 stars in general are like 2.5%, and then it would break it up between all the 3 stars. But this one actually just has the breakdown and doesn't actually give you the whole number. So I actually did the math and it looks like it's 2.5%, but I might have actually missed a couple of them. Definitely let me know in the comments. But either way, it does look pretty competitive when it comes to getting some of the 3 stars. But it was nice to see that some of the 2 stars and even some of the 1 stars are a little bit higher in the tier list. So it gives you a little bit more flexibility, especially when you're able to use that tier list to kind of give you more data and a little bit more idea what kind of characters can go with what. And it really does seem like some of the team comps are going to be fluctuating between some of the 3 stars, 2 stars, and even 1 stars to make a really, really good team. And it's kind of designed that way essentially, especially in like later parts of the game in PvP and stuff like that. There's actually 2-star tanks that a lot of people end up using. So I was happy to see that even though the rates seem to be a little bit more competitive when it comes to the gacha, that there are a little bit of fluctuation, a little bit more variety when it comes to the overall units that you can actually use for some of the team comps. Overall, I really like the game. I think the UI looks really clean. There are some different things that I feel like some people might not be able to go over, you know, the chibi style, the auto kind of stuff. But overall, I think if you kind of find a place for this game, essentially, if you're kind of running as a side game or kind of a game that you just want to kind of pay attention to and not spend too much time on, it really does seem like you're able to go in there, get your dailies done within like 10-15 minutes and just kind of go from there. There are different game modes you can jump into like PvP and some of the different raids that take a little bit more time if you're into that. There definitely is kind of that fine line essentially, if you get to choose how much time you really want to put into it and you get a little bit more of a gauge of how much you want to invest in the game. And honestly, I like a game where it gives you a little bit of freedom and it kind of respects your time, and it really feels at this point in time anyway that this game really does that. So anyway guys, if you guys want to see some more content, definitely let me know down in the comments, and I will see you in the next one. Have a good rest of your night guys. Peace.